Tiptoe Through the Tulips, the infectious little ditty from 1968, will certainly be stuck in your head after watching this video. Sorry, not sorry, because we're going to be looking at the life and times and tragic death of Tiny Tim, the falsetto-voiced, ukulele-toting, unexpected star from the peace and love generation. Just a bit of fair warning, if you didn't know how Tiny Tim died, you might want to grab a tissue, because this video is a tearjerker. Don't say we didn't warn you. Who was the real Tiny Tim, and just how did this capricious oddball rise to fame? We'll get to that one in a minute, but before we get around to it, we have to say that his story is certainly peculiar. Where did he get his name anyway? Because according to records, this musician was born with a less enthralling name, Herbert Butros Khaury. Stay tuned to discover the surprising origins of his nicknames. But first, we're going to take a look at his formative years long before he was singing about the wonders of prancing through fields of flowers.
When he was 3,
Tiny Tim's early, humble beginnings. Like we mentioned, the man behind the earworm that is Tiptoe Through the Tulips was born Herbert Khaury in New York City on April 12, 1932. His mom, Tilly, made clothing and her father was a rabbi. She immigrated to the U.S. from the Soviet city Brest-Litovsk, which is in the present-day tumultuous nation of Belarus. Butros, Khaury's father, was also in the textile trade and hailed from Beirut. His dad was actually a Catholic priest. There's a joke in there somewhere about the son of a priest and the daughter of a rabbi getting together, but we'll leave that one for you guys in the comments section. Khaury had an early interest in music, which initially took root when his father gifted him an old-timey wind-up phonograph record player when he was a young boy. He would sit and listen to the only record he owned, Beautiful Ohio by Henry Burr, for hours at a time. At the age of 6, he taught himself how to play the guitar and began writing simple melodies. He soon became an avid record collector and spent his free time at New York Public Library brushing up on the then brief history of the burgeoning record industry and its first major stars. At the library, he would make photocopies of sheet music that he would take home and learn how to play. What started off as a childhood hobby quickly became his lifelong passion. When he was only 11, he started learning how to play the violin. Then he picked up the mandolin and ukulele, and before long he was dishing out songs like no one's business. He had a routine appendectomy in 1945 and spent his time in recovery reading the Bible and listening to music on the radio. He received his education at George Washington High School, but he wasn't what you'd call a star student. He dropped out after his sophomore year and started working odd jobs to get by. Discovering his signature falsetto voice. It was during that time he spent recovering from his appendectomy and listening to music on the radio that he discovered he had the rare talent to sing with a very high pitch. He told Johnny Carson on The Tonight Show in 1968 he had been listening to Rudy Vallee sing in falsetto when he realized he could sing along and match the same notes. He had previously been unaware he had the gift of singing in such a manner. When he made the discovery, he described it as something like a religious experience. In 1952, he got a job working as a runner boy at the New York office of MGM Studios. It was there that his love affair with the entertainment industry started to flourish. He decided to give performing a shot when he entered into a local open mic competition and sang the old familiar classic You Are My Sunshine in his signature falsetto style. From there, he took his newfound journey into show business further by performing in nightclubs during their rookie nights under a whole bunch of different stage names. Back then, he was going by a slew of monikers like Judas K. Foxglove, Emmett Swink, and Texarkana Tex, just to name a few. To differentiate himself from the other performers, he would go up on stage wearing outlandishly loud attire. He grew his hair out and wore makeup to make himself look paler than he really was. His mother, thinking he had lost his marbles, had fully intended to commit him to the psychiatric care of Bellevue Hospital, but his father protested and stopped it from happening. Another name change and rise to fame. In 1959, he swapped out his various stage names and started performing under the alias of Larry Love, the Singing Canary, while performing as a sideshow act of sorts at Hubert's Museum and Live Flea Circus in New York's Times Square. He then linked up with a talent scout who sent him out to audition at various Greenwich Village venues, where he landed several unpaid gigs that helped him get his name out there. This is when he started playing Tiptoe Through the Tulips, his signature ukulele-fueled magnum opus. He got his first paid gig at a venue called Page 3, a queer nightclub in Greenwich Village where he performed nearly every night of the week for 5 to 6 hours at a time for a measly $96 a month. For the next several years, he performed under the names Derry Dover and then Sir Timothy Timms. But he picked up the Tiny Tim tag when he was working with a band of little people. At 6 feet 1 inches tall, he stood in stark contrast with his compact cohorts. You might already know that Tiny Tim was also the name of the Charles Dickens character in A Christmas Carol. Just a quick side note, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And don't go anywhere yet, we're going to reveal how Tiny Tim tragically kicked the bucket, so stick around. Tiny Tim, the film star. Tiny Tim got a huge break when he appeared in Normal Love, a 1963 experimental film directed by Jack Smith, in which he played a glamorously dressed musical monster. He followed that film role up with a small part in the indie flick You Are What You Eat in 1968, where he sang several songs in his falsetto style like Sonny Bono's I Got You Babe and Be My Baby from the Ronettes. These film credits led him to being booked on the Rowan and Martin Laugh-In, a popular anthology sketch comedy variety show at the time. On that program, he played a conglomeration of A Tisket a Tasket and On the Good Ship Lollipop on his Martin ukulele before busting out Tiptoe Through the Tulips, much to the dismay of the audience and hosts. God bless Tiny Tim. It was in 1968 that the unorthodox performer finally cut a record entitled God Bless Tiny Tim, which was released by Reprise Records. The album featured an orchestrally arranged rendition of his signature song, along with a slew of other equally whimsical tracks like Livin' in the Sunlight, Lovin' in the Moonlight, and I Got You Babe. His follow-up record, Tiny Tim's second album, saw far fewer record sales than his first. His fourth release, For All My Little Friends, was released in 1969 and was a compilation of children's songs that earned him a Grammy nomination. After the 60s wrapped up, Tiny Tim's fame began to fade. He continued playing gigs across the U.S., including several high-grossing shows in Vegas. Following his contract with Reprise Records, he founded the humorously titled Vic Tim Records with his wife, Victoria Buttinger. But their marriage would end in divorce in 1974. Tiny Tim married his second wife, Jan Allweiss, in 1984, and then his third wife, Susan Marie Gardner, in 1995. He saw a bit of a second wave in popularity in the late 80s and 90s. In 1986, he performed with the indie rock band Camper Van Beethoven and starred in the 1987 film Blood Harvest as the devious Mervo the Clown. In 1993, he released the albums Rock and I Love Me, and then his final album, Girl, in 1996. Tiny Tim's tragic death. The musician had a long history of heart trouble, and on September 28, 1996, he had a heart attack on stage at the Ukulele Festival in Montague, Massachusetts. He was immediately taken to the hospital, where he spent several weeks recovering before being discharged. The doctors had strongly counseled him not to take to the stage again because of his health and pre-existing conditions, seeing that he already had cardiovascular issues and diabetes. He couldn't help but return to the stage, regardless of the sound medical advice that he shouldn't. On November 30th, 1996, he played his last show at a gala benefit put on by the Women's Club of Minneapolis. Even though he reportedly told his wife Susan he wasn't feeling well before going on stage, he did so anyway because he didn't want to let his fans down. The audience had mostly cleared out by the time he performed his last song, Tiptoe Through the Tulips. Halfway through the song, he had another major heart attack once again on stage. When he left the stage, his wife asked him if he was okay. He told her he wasn't feeling well right before collapsing on the table. He never regained consciousness. EMTs attempted to resuscitate him using CPR, and he was quickly taken to a nearby hospital where repeated attempts were made to revive him, but none were successful. He was laid to rest at Lakewood Cemetery in Minneapolis. Even though Tiny Tim is no longer with us, he'll never be forgotten. A large tulip-themed mural is dedicated to him in a Macquarie University student building in Sydney, Australia, and a star featuring his name was painted on the outside of the Minneapolis Theatre First Avenue, an honor that's only awarded to the most prestigious artists to have played at the venue. Do you think Tiny Tim is deserving of the honors and accolades he has received, or do you think that Tiptoe Through the Tulips was just an obnoxious one-hit wonder? Let us know what you think in the comments section. And don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Tap the bell icon to turn on notifications so you never have to miss another one of our facts-packed videos.